Shalom, this is your Ark. Yah is magnified, coming back with another informative video. I titled this video, Obligations Under the Law Creates the Contract. But before I tackle this subject, as always, I must state for the record, I'm not a lawyer, I do not practice law, and I do not pretend to. All of my videos are for informational and educational purposes only. They're all facts and all truth. Nothing more, nothing less. So with that being said, let's get to it. Okay, so again, as I've been telling y'all in my most recent videos, that everything dealing with child support is all contracts. But that's everything dealing in the United States of America, period. Okay? Like I stated before in my earlier videos, and I will say it again in this video. The United States, everything in the United States operates on a continuous series of contracts. Everything in the United States operates with contracts. Not one thing do not operate in the United States using contracts, okay? So now, when you go into these courts and you argue child support, but you want to go and argue the Constitution, you got to remember what Article 1, Section 10 says in the United States Constitution. Okay? A man has a right to contract. And can nobody come between a man and his right to contract? So the courts are there to do what? Enforce the contract. Okay? They're not there to hear you complain about your constitutional rights. They feel as though you made an agreement to pay a debt. They want to know why the debt is not being paid. So when they say your constitutional rights do not stand here, it's because the Constitution is what they're standing on when they make that exact same statement. They're using Article 1, Section 10 of the United States Constitution that clearly states, can no one come between a man and his contracts? Okay, you have an obligation to contract. So in order for you to get out of a contract, you got to make another contract and enforce that contract. That's the only way you're going to get out. It's plain and simple, simple and plain. You're going back in there arguing, the Constitution that, you like underneath the 14th Amendment and all this and all that. Yeah, that will work if you're not on child support yet. But if you're already on child support, then their focus is on Article 1, Section 10 of the United States Constitution. Okay? You cannot impair a man in his contracts. Plain and simple, simple and plain. So again, that's why I titled this video, The Obligation Under the Law Creates the Contract. And I'm going to prove that. So as you all can see, we're coming from the essentials for attorneys and child enforcement, right? Chapter 9, Establishment of Child Support Obligations. What is an obligation? Type that in Google if you don't have a Black Laws Dictionary and research it, okay? But let's continue. Let's stroll up. Let's go to overview of establishment process, right? It says establishment of a child support order is vital to ensuring support for a child. Although an obligation under the law to support a child may exist, it is not enforceable without an order from a court or an administrative tribunal. Okay? So how do they enforce it? Using the courts or the administrative tribunal. Okay? That's how they enforce the child support thing. Or that's how they enforce the obligation under the law. Okay? So now let's find out what is an obligation under the law. Okay, so as you all can see, we're coming from nature of contract. But let's scroll down to subsection 6. Obligation. It states, as used in this work, the word obligation means a legal obligation, as distinguished from a natural or moral obligation. That is to say, the term is used to signify an obligation that will be enforced by law. Okay? They're not trying to use the law to enforce child support against us? Yes, they are. So for all my people out there fighting, understand what's really going on. Okay? But let's continue. It says, as opposed to obligations of which the court cannot take cognisance. Right? So now, we know that they basically stating that the court cannot take knowledge. Okay? of any other contract. But because it's one enforced by law, then the court's going to take knowledge to this contract. But let's continue. Thus, limited. An obligation may be defined as a legal bond, whereby, according to the law of the state, one person is bound to act or forbear on behalf of another person. Is that not what's going on with the child support agency? Are they not trying to have one person act on behalf of the other person? But let's continue. The elements of obligations will be considered in another place, where it will appear that an obligation is a right in personam, as distinguished from a right in rem. That is, it is not a right to a thing, but a right to control the future conduct of a definite person in a particular respect. So are they not trying to control the people who are on child support? Yes, they are. They're trying to control your conduct by forcing you to work and forcing you to do all types of other nonsense because they feel as though they created the contract. But let's continue. An agreement coupled with an intention of the parties to affect their legal relations does not result in contract, right? But then it says properly, let's scroll up, speaking, unless an obligation is created. So once the obligation is created, then it also creates the contract. So again, I could not stress this enough. It's all about contracts, contracts, contracts. You must get out of the contract. And as I tell you all over and over and over again, the best way to get out of a contract is to usher in your own contract. Okay? We got to put our minds together. We got to continue to seek this remedy. There's no playing around. You know, we have to expose the fraud, man. Put the fraud out there for everybody can see and get understanding. Okay? Get this remedy through the state, man. Continue to fight in the state. Okay? We don't have to go to the federal courts to do these things. We can do them in the state. Okay? Matter of fact, it's more people going into the state courts fighting than going into the federal. We have people every day going to the state courts who don't know what's going on, who don't have a clue of how to maintain or handle their business in these courts. Because these courts are courts of business. Okay, so if you are going in there arguing the Constitution, please stop it. Okay, because these types of contracts they are trying to enforce by law, which are known as obligations. Okay, so again, the obligation under the law creates the contract. So again, if you all need my help, hit me up in my email at y'allismagnified@gmail.com. Okay, get the ball rolling so we can all seek this remedy. But before I leave, one more time, let's go back over this last paragraph, okay? It states, an agreement coupled with an intentions of the parties to affect their legal relations does not result in contracts, right? But let's continue. It states, properly speaking, unless an obligation is created. So once the obligation is created, the contract is also created with the obligation. So again, I just can't stress this enough. Let's go and get this remedy. And if you all need my help, one more time before I go, hit me in my email at y'allismagnified@gmail.com. You all be blessed. Enjoy y'all day. Shalom.